Well,
my first attraction.
that probably attracts lots of us in
Yes.
different ways.
It was very,
you know,
it
and
was a lot of
that's wonderful. And now that you've gone through all of this, what do you love mostly about the Catholic faith or the Christian faith? Is there still the big ceremonies or the mass and the way we kind of give praise to God?
Well, it's amazing how once you get to know about something, you start seeing everything about it. So it's no longer all about the festivities. It's no longer all about how good it feels to be at Mass. I think what I love most about a Catholic faith is the way one can do wrong and come back, the forgiveness, the reconciliation. And I think it helps you to see yourself, who you are. When you do something that is not considered to be proper, something that's not considered to be right, and you go and you ask for forgiveness, you go for reconciliation, it makes it easier to see it in someone else. It makes it easier to, let's say, tolerate when someone else is doing something that you feel is not in line with what should be done. So for me, the reconciliation in the Catholic faith is the best.
I think that's not only for you. I think a lot of us feel that, that we, to know that there's a wonderful God with his kindness and generosity, and and you're a mom, you're
Yes.
a parent, so you know what that's all about. I mean, how many times, the little ones as they grow through life,
Right.
you say, it's okay, son, or it's okay, daughter, and you give them a hug, and you almost can feel that. And I think that's a great, not only a sign, I think that's the connection between the God of parenting and yourself as parenting. And now you're going even into a deeper relationship in a sense with the church. You're doing some studies as a lay
Yes.
ecclesial minister.
Yes.
Now, did Monsignor recommend that, or did you just do that through your association with the diocese?
Well, how that began is I used to work for a cardiology firm, and then I took a break for a few months from that. And while on that break, I met Father Jeff Kegley after a couple of years. I had known him for some time, but then I met him again, and he says, what are you doing with your life these days? And I said, well, just taking care of my kids, just taking care of my home. And he says, well, I need a secretary. Would you consider working for me? So I said, wow, I never thought, I could do something like this. At the time when he asked me, I was on my way to South Carolina to visit my son at the Citadel. And I said, let me think about it. I'm going to be away for about 2 weeks. Well, just about every other day while I was in South Carolina, I would get an email from him. Are you thinking about this? Please don't forget, I need a secretary, just part-time. Well, by the time the second week rolled around, it was like, I need a secretary full-time.
Full-time.
So I said, hold on a second, Father Jeff, you said part-time. So he said, well, now it's going to be full-time because my current secretary is pregnant. She may be taking a break for a while. So needless to say, by the time I returned back to Trenton, I sat with him, and he offered me the job, and that's where I started working. While working there, I met Dennis Heffernan, who really was the jumping-off point for me getting into ILM. Dennis came to me one day with an essay, and he says, Usha, you're always doing the bulletin, and you're always proofreading stuff. Could you proofread my essay for me? And I said, sure, no problem. So I went through it, put all my red marks. At the end of the day, I took it back into his office, and he says, thank you. And I said, hey, Dennis, by the way, what is this about? This is really heavy stuff. What is this about? So he says, oh, it's an essay I have to do for the ILM program. And I said, really, what's that about? He says, have a seat, let's talk about this. So I said, sure. He started to talk about it. And he said, you should get involved in that. Well, that's when I got up and I left the room. And I said, no, thank you. I have enough on my plate. He says, no, I think you should get involved in this program. So I said, Dennis, it is not for me. I'm not ready yet. He says, I'm striking while the iron is hot. You call Jolene. So I made the phone call about 3 weeks later, and here I am. At the end of my 4-year term.
Oh, yeah, end of your 4-year term.
Yes.
So
well,
you'll be graduating and becoming.
Well, pray God, getting commissioned this December.
Boy, isn't that marvelous?
Yes, it is.
Oh gosh, and that's all. So you left being secretary. Now you're working for the diocese, or
Yes.
both dioceses with the New Jersey Conference.
Correct.
Now how? I mean,
How
every
did
time you
that
walk
happen?
into somebody's office, they tell you to sit down. You got another leap of faith here. You just keep going up the ladder.
Well, actually, I was still at Father Jeff's parish when Dr. George Correll came and asked me if I would take the position of the new network director for Trenton and Camden. And again, I was very happy at St. Raphael. I still think it was the best job I ever had. It was a family there, and it certainly was a ministry, and I couldn't see myself leaving it.
Nice working in the parish.
It is, and it's something I never envisioned myself doing. So it took me quite a few months to think about it, and eventually I came to the decision that yes, perhaps this is where God is leading me. Perhaps there is something else out there. It was a tough decision to make, to leave St. Raphael Holy Angels Parish. But,
you have great parishes in your life and great priests that have touched your life as well as beautiful loves of your husband and family and children.
Absolutely.
Now, tell me a little bit about this ministry that you do with the diocese. Did you have special training for it? Did you just kind of, because you're a mom and a parent in school and children, you got involved?
It was an easy transition to start working this job in a paid position because while Matthew was at Holy Cross, I started in 6th grade. For the last 2 years of his term at Holy Cross, I was on the PTA as a legislative consultant, advocate, coordinator, and I worked actually with the same people in a volunteer position that I work for now, in a paid position.
Get paid for it.
So I think perhaps they knew that I was aware of what was needed in that position, and hence they made the job offer to me.
Now you see this as a ministry, not just as a job.
Definitely is a ministry, and I recall when on my downtimes on this job, and there are many, I recall when I was first interviewed by Father Jeff for the job as a receptionist, and he sat me down and he says, now what I'm about to offer to you is not a job. I'm about to offer you a ministry in my parish. Are you willing to take it? And I didn't understand what he meant, and he says, you're going to be dealing with people, you're going to be the front door person, and this is a ministry. And I took that with me when I started this job with the Catholic schools. And I said, this has to be a ministry to service to poor children and families of Catholic schools.
Tell us about your work. What do you have to do, and how do you go about it? And you're still learning, and tell us all about this legislative thing, and why is it so important to you and to our faith and to our school children?
Well, definitely still learning. You're never finished learning because every bit of information is always so fresh and new. I get my directives from the New Jersey Catholic Conference. Dr. George Correll is the Director of Education there. And I work under the supervision of the superintendents of schools for the Diocese of Camden and Trenton. What we basically do is advocate public policies for our Catholic school families. Catholic Conference is involved in a lot of areas in terms of education, services with nursing services, books for the schools that, the children of the schools that go to Catholic schools, technology, busing situations. But perhaps the most important one right now is the Opportunity Scholarship Bill, which we are working on. It is a tax credit program where we are asking corporations to come on board to donate their taxes and get 100% credit for it, donated towards education for our Catholic schools. It is a piece of legislation that has evolved. We've had setbacks, but we continue to move forward with it.
Now explain that a little bit to me, if you don't mind, Usha, that someone who, say, pays a certain amount of taxes can apply that to the education of their child?
Yeah, we ask corporate companies to come on board, and this is not even an issue because there's so many of them that would be very happy to do this. So they come on board and they donate their taxes, their taxes to education. They get 100% credit for it. When the legislation is passed, we will be able to give $6,000 for an elementary school child to go to an elementary school, naturally, and $9,000 for a high school student. There is a criteria. It is a poverty a bill. A family of 4 cannot earn more than $55,000 per year. And if the scholarships exceed, or well, the money actually, if it's less than what the scholarships can give, then we do a lottery. And hopefully we can have enough money for all of the kids to go to Catholic schools.
Now this will be statewide.
Yes.
So that a family, it's not going to be for every Catholic child in every Catholic school, this
Well,
would
they
be,
have to
applied.
fall within the poverty level.
but that's a great, wonderful gift that would be marvelous for the many of the children and many of the families that would certainly be willing to send their child to a. Now, is there opposition to that? Or,
Definitely, as you were saying, it's a wonderful opportunity. I was saying to myself, I wish the legislators would know this.
Yes.
There's a lot of opposition, and the biggest opposition we're having with that bill is from the NJEA, which, as you know, is one of the strongest unions that we have. They have their own perceptions of what the bill is going to do, so it's a big challenge to get this bill passed.
And for the work you do you go around to our own schools or talk to PTAs or
Yes.
talk to parents?
I do it mostly by invitation only, because you don't want to just come into the schools when they're not ready to have you. So when there's an open forum, say for instance, we just had the annual PTA conference at Notre Dame High School. I was asked to speak for a few minutes on the bill. If we have spring conferences in different counties, I try to go out there and speak to them. A lot of the correspondence that I do is by email. I feel like we've gone so far in technology that you don't have to travel bodily to meet people anymore. So a lot of what I do is by email. And we've asked each principal of every school to nominate at least 2 people, either from their PTA board or from their parent body, or it could be someone from the community, who would be a coordinator in the school, so that when we have information to send out, they would help us to disseminate that.
Why, Usha, do you think some people would be against this? I mean, children are children. There's lots of different kinds of education, charter schools, et cetera. Is this something that they're afraid that more would come to Catholic schools, or?
The opposition seems to think that by giving money towards this tax, actually initiating the tax credit bill would take money out of the Treasury. Money is being diverted from the Treasury, but not $1 is coming out of the Treasury. They also think that it's going to demolish public school education. The bill is designed that only 25% will go towards non-public school students, and 75% of the money will go to public schools. If you're happy in your public school, naturally you will not leave, but somehow they see this as detrimental to the public school system.
Now, do you think a lot of our families know about this already?
Yes, they do. I've been trying my best to get the word out on it.
How big is your network? Do you have people working for you, volunteers?
Well, we have approximately 46 schools, which includes the Catholic elementary and Catholic secondary schools in Camden, and about 51 schools, including, again, elementary and secondary here in the Diocese of Trenton. So together, I would say I have at least 2 volunteers in each school that would form part of my network coordinators.
So this is like school choice? It's working in other states?
It is. It is. Presently, we have approximately 22 states that have some form of school choice, and at least 7 that has the tax credit bill.
Usha, we only have a few seconds, but what's the most important thing that people should do to help pass this type of legislation?
Certainly to pray that Catholic schools will always remain a viable option for all of our parents, and to stay informed on education issues.
Pray and be informed. Thank you so much, Usha. Thank you. The Catholic Corner, please pray with us, be with us, love us as we love you.